two most powerful forces in life are time and words. Once they're gone, there's no way to get them back. Words, my friends, hold an undeniable magic. They can mend invisible wounds or leave permanent scars. They can raise empires or reduce them to ashes. Have you ever noticed how a single sentence can brighten someone's entire day while another can linger and haunt them for years? Words may cost nothing, yet their impact is immeasurable. They're simple, yet strong enough to shape destinies. Before we really dive in, I'd love for you to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because today I'm about to share a phrase so incredibly powerful that almost no man, 99.9%, will be able to ignore its impact. Ladies, picture this. You're standing in front of a vending machine. You insert the money, press a button, and wait, but nothing comes out. What do? You shake it, tap it, maybe even give it a small kick. As what many people do in relationships, they keep pressing the same emotional buttons, repeating the same lines, hoping something will change, yet nothing ever does. Men are wired differently, and if you don't fully grasp what moves them emotionally, you'll keep hitting the wrong switches and wondering why your connection feels stuck. Today, I'm giving you the golden code. There's a common misconception that men are simple. Feed them, praise them, and they're content. But that's not the truth. Men carry a world inside them. They feel deeply. They just don't always show it. They've been taught by society to stay composed, to keep their emotions bottled up, to never shed tears, to handle everything silently. Because of that, many men live with an invisible burden. They might not openly express what's eating at them, but deep down, they're aching for someone who truly gets them. And here's the surprising part. Most women think they need to be perfect, flawless, beautiful, or ultra successful to hold a man's attention. But what truly keeps a man present is something else entirely. Feeling understood, feeling appreciated, and feeling deeply respected. Think of it this way. If you've ever seen a stray dog, you'll notice they flinch even when offered kindness. They've been through enough to be cautious. You could hold food in your hand, but they still hesitate, unsure if it's a trick. Yet if you're gentle, if you're patient, if you prove you're safe, they approach you willingly, slowly building trust. Men are like that too. Many move through life with emotional shields. They won't drop those guards just because you ask them to. They need proof that your presence won't bring more pain. And the thing that can break through that armor, the right words said at the right time. Before you assume this is some manipulative tactic, stop right there. This isn't about fooling a man into loving you. This is about real connection. About understanding psychology and learning to communicate in a way that reaches beyond surface level talk. Because while most people speak, very few truly connect. And when you finally learn to speak in a way that touches the heart, everything changes. So if you're ready to discover a phrase that can soften even the most guarded man, don't go anywhere. And hey, if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive deeper. Words can either tear people apart or pull them closer than ever. They don't cost a dime, but how you use them can cost you everything. Words are weapons or lifelines. They can damage beyond repair or rebuild what was thought to be lost. One careless remark can dissolve a bond, while one sincere statement can make someone feel truly recognized and deeply cherished for a lifetime. Now think for a moment. Why do certain speeches move people to tears while others feel empty and forgettable? Why do some relationships thrive for years while others disintegrate, even with regular I love yous exchanged? It's not about how often you speak. It's about what you're actually saying and how you deliver it. Imagine walking through a dark forest with only one match. If you use it carelessly, you risk burning everything around you. But used wisely, that match could save your life, offering light and direction. Words are just like that. A sarcastic comment, a cold remark, a joke that cuts too deep. Those are sparks that can destroy intimacy, respect, and trust. But one encouraging sentence, a phrase that speaks to someone's inner world, that's a flame that can nurture safety, warmth, and closeness. Ask yourself honestly, how are you using your words? Are they tools for healing or harm? Are you building safe emotional spaces or are you tearing them down? Most people don't even realize the harm they cause with casual words. They speak mindlessly, thinking words vanish the moment they're spoken, but they don't. Words are energy. They remain. They shape how people see themselves and the world. They leave marks, sometimes soft, sometimes searing. Here's the truth you may not have heard. Men, regardless of how composed or unshakable they seem, are profoundly influenced by what's said to them. They may not show it, but they feel it. Society keeps telling them to be resilient, to brush things off, to never let words penetrate their exterior, but they do. Men remember the words that cut the deepest. A disapproving comment from a parent, a harsh judgment from a lover, a time they gave their all and weren't acknowledged. These things don't just fade away, just as true. Positive words can be transformative. A heartfelt message can reignite hope. A kind, meaningful phrase can bring a man back to life, make him feel seen again, push him to rise stronger. History proves it. Wars, revolutions, dreams, heartbreaks, all sparked or soothed by words. Love letters, last words, speeches that inspire change. They're all driven by language. So again, I ask, how are you using your words? Because very soon I'm going to share a phrase that can open a man's heart. But before that, you need to understand something crucial. What men are really yearning for. And it's likely not what you've been told. Let's look deeper. The men who seem the most invulnerable are often the ones bearing the heaviest burdens in silence. We're conditioned to see men as rocks, untouched by emotion, not needing reassurance. But every man, no matter how stoic, is craving something. You may not even be fully aware of it. From a young age, boys are told to stay strong, suck it up, handle everything on their own, don't cry, don't ask for help, don't admit weakness. So they adapt, they learn to armor up, they suppress their feelings, they soldier on through exhaustion, heartbreak, fear, never daring to fall apart. Imagine a soldier marching endlessly, scarred and weary. His armor is dented, his pace is slow, but no one asks if he's okay because he looks fine. But inside, he's craving not pity, not saving, but recognition. He wants someone to say, I see you, I see your effort, and you matter. Men aren't asking for perfection in a partner. They're looking for peace. They're searching for someone who won't increase the load, but will help carry it. And that kind of relief, it starts with words. Ever seen a man constantly seeking validation from a job, a parent, social media, or society? That's because many men never hear affirming words. Not from their families, not from friends, not even from the women they give their hearts to. And eventually, when those emotional needs go unmet for too long, they pull away. They stop sharing. They become distant. But that doesn't mean they've stopped caring. It means they've stopped hoping someone will notice. But you have the power to change that. The right words, spoken sincerely, can pierce even the strongest armor. You can be the one who makes him feel seen again, not for his achievements or his money or his toughness, but for his soul. So what do you say? What exact phrase can unlock something deep inside him and bring his guard down? Stay with me, because in just a moment, I'll reveal the words that have the power to shift everything. But first, understand this. What men need even more than love is to be heard. Being heard, truly heard, is so close to being loved that most people can't tell the difference. People often remember empty compliments and forget them just as quickly, but authentic words, the kind that pierce deeply, stir something inside, and take root in your memory, those are rare. And today, I want to give you one of those. Imagine this. You're stranded in the middle of a vast desert, alone and desperate for water. The sun is blazing, the ground beneath you burns, and your entire body cries out for relief. Then someone approaches and hands you a cold soda. It's fizzy, maybe even tastes good, but it won't hydrate you. It won't save you. And so flattery is, it might feel good for a fleeting moment, but it doesn't nourish the soul. It doesn't touch the core. And men, whether they say it or not, are starved for something real. Here's the reality. Most men walk through life unseen. They wake up early, grind all day, shoulder burdens, meet expectations, and carry on because they have to. And when the dust settles, no one really acknowledges them. Maybe someone says, "Nice work," or "You're awesome," but those words are vague, impersonal, and quickly forgotten. But when someone looks him in the eye and says, "I see you, I recognize your struggle, I respect what you carry," something shifts inside of him. Because that's not just a compliment, that's acknowledgement, that's validation, that's a voice saying, "You're not invisible. Your effort, your endurance, your persistence, it matters." What many don't realize is that men crave respect and recognition even more deeply than they desire love. This isn't just a theory, it's truth backed by real life. A woman could say, "I love you" to a man every day, but if she minimizes his efforts, constantly criticizes him, or overlooks his dedication, he will feel empty. On the other hand, if she says, "I truly admire your commitment. I notice the weight you carry. I appreciate everything you do," that fills him, that energizes him, that makes him want to move mountains for her. Because respect isn't just admiration, it's reverence. And when a man feels deeply respected, he becomes powerful in ways that love alone could never spark. So I'm asking you to skip the flattery, forget the shallow praise, instead choose words that penetrate past the surface, that reach his core and settle in his bones. Because when a man hears, "I see you," it's like taking a full breath after suffocating. It's like stumbling across clear water after wandering through heat and dust for days. Now you may be wondering, when should I say this? How can I say it in a way that really lands? Well, timing matters, and I'll walk you through the perfect moments and the best way to speak these words so they echo inside him long after you've said them. So stay with me. And if you haven't already, take a moment to like this video, hit subscribe, and let's continue. Respect is one of the deepest forms of love. If love is the fire that brings light and comfort into a relationship, then respect is the oxygen that keeps that fire burning. Without it, the warmth fades. It doesn't matter how passionate things begin, if respect isn't present, that passion can't survive. A man can hear "I love you" 1,000 times, but if he doesn't feel respected, those words lose their meaning. Love without respect is like offering food without a seat at the table. It leaves someone full but excluded, fed but still starved in another way. Imagine a knight riding back home from battle. He's wounded, exhausted, yet triumphant. He doesn't come back expecting a parade or glory. What he wants more than anything is to see his queen's eyes meet his, to hear her say, "I know what you've been through. I honor your courage. I deeply respect your strength." That acknowledgement, that recognition is everything. And here's something many women don't realize. Men would rather be alone than be with someone who disrespects them. That's not bitterness. That's a boundary born from emotional necessity. The tragic part is that most women don't even realize when they're being dismissive or diminishing to the men they care about. Men often won't say it out loud, but they feel it. They feel it in the way their words are brushed off, in the sarcastic remarks, the passive-aggressive jokes, the subtle eye rolls when they share something vulnerable. They feel it when they're told to man up, when their fatigue is dismissed, when their efforts go unrecognized, and slowly, bit by bit, they start to pull back. Not because they're weak, but because being unseen for too long chips away at a man's spirit. It dulls his drive. It makes him question his worth in the relationship. A woman may believe she's showing love in her ways through affection, through gestures, but if those actions lack respect, they won't reach him. Respect to a man is everything. It's not just in the words, it's in the tone and the timing and the consistency. It's in saying, "I trust your judgment," instead of constantly questioning his decisions. It's in saying, "I admire your hustle," rather than comparing his progress to others. It's in holding space for his silence rather than demanding emotional performances he's not ready to give. Because here's another truth. Men don't open up to those who make them feel small. They open up to those who make them feel safe. And safety for a man begins with respect. You don't need to flatter him. You don't need to shower him with sugary words. You just need to say what's real. Speak directly to his value, not just his appearance or charm. Tell him, "I see how you carry burdens you never complain about. I respect the way you stay calm when things get tough. I admire the way you protect what matters to you." Those words aren't poetic fluff. They are fuel. They go deeper than romance. They touch something foundational. And when a man feels that from you, he doesn't just love you, he cherishes you. He becomes more than your partner. He becomes your warrior. He becomes your protector, your builder, your sanctuary. Because now he's no longer trying to prove himself. He's finally been seen. And being seen, really seen, is the rarest, most sacred feeling a man can experience. So if you want to touch a man in a way that lasts, if you want to connect on a level beyond chemistry or attraction, speak with honesty, with clarity, with respect. Say the things that others overlook. See him in the places where the world ignores him. And when you do, you'll unlock a depth in him he's never shared with anyone else. Not because he didn't want to, but because no one ever earned it. Because when a man gives you that part of himself, the part that hides behind silence, behind the long stares, behind the strong shoulders and late nights, that's not casual. That's sacred. He's not just giving you words. He's letting you into a space most people never get close to, a space guarded not by ego, but by survival. He's built walls over time, not out of pride, but protection. Not because he wants to shut love out, but because he's learned how quickly people walk away once they've seen the full picture. So when he begins to open up, when his voice softens, when he chooses to sit beside you in his quiet and let you witness the part of him that has no answers, no armor, no plan, that is his deepest offering. And if you respond with respect, if you hold that space with reverence instead of rushing to fix, to judge, to decode, you will become the only place on earth he feels completely free. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to always know the right thing to say. You just have to mean it when you say, "I see you." And not just when he wins, not just when he's confident or at his best, but especially when he's tired, when he's uncertain, when he's carrying more than he admits. That's when your words matter the most. Because everyone celebrates a man when he's on top, but the one who earns his heart is the one who stood beside him when he questioned if he'd make it through. The one who didn't pressure him to perform, but instead reminded him of his worth, even in stillness. There's something powerful in knowing how to sit with a man in his silence, to recognize that sometimes he doesn't need cheering up. He needs someone who can feel the weight with him, not fix it. Someone who can say, I don't need you to have it all together for me to value you. That level of emotional maturity is rare. And it's the difference between temporary connection and unshakable bond. Because men may chase beauty, they may be drawn to charm, but what they stay for, what they commit to, is the woman who becomes a mirror for their inner truth. The one who doesn't need to shine a spotlight on their flaws or their failures, but instead becomes the reflection that reminds them who they are when the world tries to make them forget. A woman like that is unforgettable, not because she tries to be, but because her presence becomes peace. Her words don't flatter, they restore. Her respect doesn't inflate, it anchors. And her love, it doesn't control, it releases. She trusts his leadership without needing to compete with it. She offers her strength without belittling his. She doesn't weaponize his vulnerability. She honors it. She doesn't shame him for falling. She helps him stand taller after. And because of that, he begins to associate her not just with love, but with home. Not just with passion, but with purpose. That's the kind of connection that rewrites a man's story. That's the kind of woman he builds a future for, not out of duty, but devotion. And here's what most don't realize. When a man feels genuinely respected, he becomes softer, not harder. More expressive, not less. It's the absence of respect that makes men cold, that shuts them down, that hardens them over time. Not because they're heartless, but because constantly given to a space that doesn't honor them is soul draining. The moment a man senses that his value is conditional, that it's based on how much he produces or how perfectly he performs, he stops showing up as his full self. He starts to wear masks. He starts to hide. But when respect is unconditional, when it's given even in the mess and the flaws and the chaos, that's when he blooms. That's when he becomes the version of himself he's been quietly craving to be all along. And when you give that to him, not by lowering your standards, but by raising your presence, you don't just receive his attention, you receive his loyalty. You don't just hear his words, you witness his soul. He'll protect you not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. He'll provide not because he feels pressured to, but because he genuinely wants to. And he'll give you more than time, more than romance, more than promises. He'll give you the part of him that never felt safe to exist until you entered his life. That's what happens when respect leads the way. That's what unfolds when you speak to the weight he carries instead of the image he presents. So when you look at him tonight, or the next time he's quiet, distracted, or buried in his thoughts, don't try to fix it. Don't take it personally. Don't ask him to explain what even he might not be ready to articulate. Instead, try this. Sit next to him. Let the silence speak. And when the time feels right, say the words he never knew he needed. I see you, and I deeply respect you. You have no idea how healing that moment can be. For a man who's always had to be strong, who's never been allowed to rest, who's used to being misunderstood, those words land like medicine. Like water in a drought, like warmth in the cold, they echo long after they're said. And in return, he will remember you not just as someone who loved him, but as someone who knew him. And being known, truly known, is what every man secretly hopes for, even if he never says it. There's something rare about the woman who doesn't flinch when a man lowers his guard, who doesn't run when his strength fades for a moment, when his voice trembles, when the weight he carries finally begins to show in the way he sighs or sits just a little heavier at the end of the day. She doesn't fear it. She doesn't misinterpret it. She understands that behind every calm silence is a storm he's trying to navigate without dragging anyone else into it. And rather than asking him to be her superhero all the time, she becomes his safe room. The one place where he can be unguarded and still feel powerful, where he can lay down the sword without being seen as weak, where he can just be a man in the rawest, most human form and still feel like a king. Most men have never had that. They've had people love what they do, not who they are. They've been appreciated for what they provide, not for how they feel. They've been accepted when they're winning, but made to feel like burdens when they're struggling. That's why their smiles sometimes feel strained. That's why their eyes grow distant, even when they're surrounded by people. They don't need more affection. They need deeper recognition, not just for their results, but for their resilience, not just for their success, but for the silent sacrifices they make that no one sees. And the woman who sees those things, the one who notices what he never says out loud, she becomes unforgettable, not because she's loud, flashy, or demanding, but because she becomes the one place in the world where he finally feels free.